Hello and welcome back to Jackknives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jackknives. Today I'll be reviewing Barbie. In the magical world of Barbie Land, everyone is happy. All women are Barbies and all men are Kens, except for Alan. One day, one of these Barbies starts having cracks in her world, becoming more free-thinking and existential. To seek answers, she travels with Ken to our world to see what it means to not be a doll, but to be a person. Now, I'm sure almost every one of you have probably seen Barbie or watched the whole Barbie, Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer thing, but I wanted to wait for the hype to die out, to give my honest opinion of it. I did get to see it originally in theaters, but I kind of wanted to subside and get past the Barbie mania that everyone was having. And I wanted to give an honest overall review, rewatching it again. One of the best things I do love about this movie is it is visually gorgeous. It is amazing how much they made the fake real sets of Barbie Land feel both plasticky and real at the same time. I really just enjoyed looking at the visuals because it did feel like being in a playset and feel like being in a model, and obviously that's what they're going for. But it also felt like, yeah, this could be a real practical place that you could probably go visit and see. Greta Gerwig is kind of a somewhat polarizing figure. Not so much that she's a bad filmmaker or that she's a terrible writer in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think Lady Bird is a fantastic movie. I think her adaptation of Little Women was presentable, although a little heavy-handed. And this is kind of where I feel Barbie is on its own. Margot Robbie plays the titular Barbie, even though they're all named Barbie, which is a little confusing but understandable. And Ken is played by Ryan Gosling. And they both have great chemistry together, but not in a way that feels forced. It feels like they're actually caring about each other. They actually do have some sort of, not attraction. Attraction's the wrong word. It's more of a chemistry. They do have a chemistry about them, and seeing them in interviews, seeing how they interact. There's a lot of times when the audience can look at an actor, they can look at a performance, and they can look at a role where you could just tell they're phoning it in reality, when the lights are off and they're away, they hate each other. But I don't feel that at all. In fact, I feel that Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling legitimately have a great chemistry together. I could see them being really close friends, and I assume that they are. The comedy has some pretty good moments where it is pretty much the fish out of water, but it's not just the fish out of water, it's the fish out of a different world. Like, how do you explain to a person who came from another world that your world is similar but so vastly different in a way that doesn't feel overly forced? And the movie balances it in the right way. It doesn't feel too overboard, but doesn't feel too forced at the same time. It's honestly kind of funny because the more people that I've seen criticize about Barbie are the more that felt like they were betrayed by the feminist messages within the film. It's funny how Greta Gerwig took a thing like Barbie, which is obviously supposed to be a symbolization of feminine subservience. The perfect woman archetype essentially comes from Barbie. What a lot of women associate their looks to, their body shape to, their aspirations, their goals. Barbie is essentially supposed to be able to do anything and yet still stay exactly the same. And the movie plays on that really, 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 really well. Because the whole point of Barbie is that she could be anyone, but she kind of flips it. Greta Gerwig flips it into a way that makes it seem like Barbie has the capabilities to be anyone and everyone at the same time. It's a very, very thin, balanced line. A very, very thin, balanced line that I feel is well written. Like, to a point where sometimes the dialogue is so heavy-handed that I will say it feels like someone took a book about the feminist movement and is slapping me in the face with it. Which, again, this isn't a criticism of feminism or a criticism of the film itself. This is a criticism of the style of writing. What I mean by that is there's a way to talk about these subjects in a way that doesn't feel overly heavy-handed. And throughout the movie, I would say about 78% they get it right. But then there's a couple other percentages where it's so over the top. But I find that more to the limitations of the story structure and the timing. Ken is essentially turned into the I can do whatever I want because I'm a man thing. Which, in 100% fairness, there is a lot of guys that are like that. I mean, red pilling is a thing. And it's funny because it's literally a parody of that. All of these men who complained about Barbie, so many, not all of them, but a lot of them that complained about Barbie online, complained about Barbie because they felt they got tricked into watching it. No one tricks you into seeing a film. If you want to see a film, you don't have to see a film. There are so many movies that deal with the, male fantasy that I personally hate. Good example, Fast and the Furious series. Not my cup of tea. There's also some movies that I think are hilariously crazy that I'm like, okay, I'll put it on. But there are movies that are like that too. Sometimes I want to watch some rom-coms. Not often, but sometimes I do. And that's kind of what this movie plays on. The movie tackles the subject of expectations from society based around gender specifically. There aren't movies that ever really talk about the subject in a really, really well-constructed way, like how you have to be, how you need to be, how you should be in society. The monologue that America Ferrera says to Barbie when Barbie is breaking down, because Barbie's trying to fit the mold. Her character is essentially Play-Doh. She's trying to find the right mold for her, but how does that happen when the mold's always changing? It essentially breaks her down, and America Ferrera gives this amazing soliloquy about what it means to be a woman, and it really made me go, wow, never really thought about it like that. Because as a man, and a straight man, I've never really dealt with those sort of things, so I can't really speak upon them. But I can listen and understand them. In fact, there's apparently, since this film, there's a new thing all over the internet referred to as the Ken test, where it's essentially like, if you relate 100% to Ken and you hate Barbie at the end of the movie, that essentially proves how toxic you are. Like, if you hated the movie because it was too girly, and it's like, it says more about you than the movie, is essentially what it means. This movie has a lot to say, and yet it's wrapped in the big pink bow of Barbie. Like, 100% kudos to Greta Gerwig for having the guts to say and do this kind of a film. I don't really know that many filmmakers that would be willing to gamble with a property like Barbie and do this and end up making $1 billion at the box office. That's insane. Greta Gerwig should be nominated for Best Writer, at least. Best Director, something. Something with this. Because she does have a lot of promise, and she is a great filmmaker. I've seen a bunch of her work, and I can safely say, I think she is a great filmmaker. And Barbie is a great movie, in its own right. But it may not be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay too. But the point of it is, if you want to see it, go ahead and see it. But don't feel betrayed after, because as I said before, it says more about you than it does about the film. I give Barbie 4 out of 5. Have you seen Barbie? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I'll see you next time.